Greetings and salutations, people of the internet. Today, we're going to try to figure out who does your government agree with more, Martin Luther King or billionaire pedophiles. Um, they do have a Martin Luther King holiday. They celebrate the assassination of Brother King um, because they killed him. Well documented. Uh, they got caught. I mean, they killed so many leaders, with Malcolm X, um, many members of the Black Panthers, including Fred Hampton. Um, yeah, the first Black FBI agents were brought in to bring down the Pan African movement that was represented by Marcus Garvey. Um, that's why whenever you hear someone says that they're the first Black anything, is not to be celebrated. That includes first Black president. Um, they're usually weaponized against the communities that they claim to represent. They do stuff that white people can't do. And then when they do it, it's like, see, it's a Black person doing it. Just like how they subvert many countries that they want to overthrow the government. They'll get a person who looks like the country they want to overthrow, like what they're doing in Iran right now, what they did in Venezuela. Um, I mean, the people they look melanated. They have the melanin of someone who comes from a certain area, but they have the mindset of a colonizer. That's a upcoming employee evaluation on Netflix.net. You can go check it out. Gets into that further, but it is it may be confusing for some of you guys because we hear so many good things about Martin Luther King. Really, it just comes back to I have a dream. When Black people will just not own their own shit, they'll depend on us for school. They'll depend on us for their food. We can bomb the Black-owned businesses out of existence, and then they'll be dependent on the corporations, the people who hate them. They'll march to and be beaten by people who they're like, hey, feed us, give us. You should be in charge of our food instead of us controlling our own situation. That's what they want you to believe Martin Luther King was all about. Just a bunch of white people who hate Black people in control of everything essential for life in the Black community. That's why I'm more Malcolm X than Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, he was like, we should have our own businesses. We should have our own. If you are not in control of something, it will be used to control you. So if we are not in control of our education, we're not in control of our food, we're not in control of our money, all that stuff will be used to control us. A lot of people who were there before the integration of the schools, they say we had it better. Black people had it better before the integrated schools because they had teachers who cared about them. Then you had Black people integrated into schools where we were taught Columbus. He discovered America. It was already millions of people here. Even though there's no way he could. Let's never forget the first Europeans were Black Africans. The first everything was Black Africans. But we're so indoctrinated in a system that hates us that we started to hate ourselves and reject our own greatness. But like when people hear that celebration of Martin Luther King's history, of just like I have a dream speech on repeat, none of the radical shit after Malcolm got killed, when he started saying my government is the greatest purveyor of terrorism on this planet a year before he got killed. They don't play any of that shit. They play the shit that they can use to sell you cars. So this part might confuse some people because they say, obviously the FBI, they love Martin Luther King. The government loves him because they gave him a holiday. They killed him. When Martin Luther King was surveilled by the government nonstop, all the time. They discovered he had extramarital affairs, and how did they respond to that? They sent him letters asking him to commit suicide because they were like, "You are not worthy. You are a scumbag. You should kill yourself. You are a despicable person. Why haven't you offed yourself?" Right? They did this because they realized he was a person of conscience, and they were like, "Okay, if you could cheat on your wife, there's no level to your depravity. You're disgusting. You're talking about end wars in Vietnam. Look, you're sleeping with women outside of your marriage. How disgusting are you? Kill yourself." Now, when the same FBI agency uh, was surveilling all of the pedophile billionaires who control this country, and then they're pro genocide, all of the disgusting shit, way worse than anything Martin Luther King could think of. What did they do when they discovered all these videos of them fucking children, and in some cases like Lindsey Graham like ejaculating on child corpses? They sent these billionaire pedophiles more money to fund more genocides. And when you be like, oh, but they didn't get a holiday. But did they? I mean, look at, we got President's Day. We got like all kinds of holidays named after vile human beings. Columbus Day, that's the genocider. They like to point out that people started to make a fuss about that and calling it Indigenous Day. But it's like any great historical figure is usually just a horrible person. And yeah, only reason MLK got his day was because the government they did that to cover them tracks. Just like when Charlie Kirk got killed after he started to cut against the grain on Israel. Israel not killed Charlie Kirk. We loved him. We're putting a mural in Israel. Same shit. They gave Martin Luther King a mural too. Uh, and welcome everyone. Hey Nate, how are you? You know, I'm maintaining, going against the grain and whatnot. Good to see you. Wait, hold on. I can think of one that isn't a piece of shit. Well, I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it. Well, and one of the things that annoys me, just a lot of the historical figures that they praise, like even people like Mother Teresa. Like it's like a trope. You watch like any television show, especially like the '90s, when they talk about like, oh, someone to illustrate someone's not a good person, like, oh, you're no Mother Teresa. She was a horrible person. She was hanging out with Ronald Reagan, who used her, just like what was it, the chick who got the Nobel Peace Prize of Venezuela, and used that as a platform to ask the U.S. and other countries to bomb Venezuela and take their publicly owned industries and put them in the hands of the psychopaths who are on Epstein Island, the billionaire pedophiles. This is another way they reward them. But Mother Teresa was basically just like her. She had this whole scam where she was taking money to help a bunch of sick people, and then she just brought them into this infrastructure where she would just watch them die without medicine, painfully, slowly. And it was just like that's the natural way, the way God wanted them to go. She was just like a serial killer. She was like just a horrific person, and we celebrate her as some kind of a hero. There's like people who even wrote books about like the evil shit she did. So you know, nope, I can't do it. I tried. Yeah, yeah, try. You will see. Everybody that the government celebrates is evil to me. The Nobel Prize Association put out on Twitter that their prize is non-transferable too. It was hilarious. Well, Julian Assange was trying to sue the Nobel Peace Prize folks for giving her the medal, and he was like proving like she goes against everything that they're supposed to represent. But that whole shit was started by a dynamiter who was just trying to clean up his image after People thought he was dead. Everyone was celebrating because he was just a despicable person. So he had this Nobel Peace Prize to be like, look, I care about peace. If you're trying to make the world better, I'll give you this prize. It's always been a propaganda tool. And it's just like when we say he invented. He didn't invent shit. This is one thing I hate about the British. I mean, so many things to hate, but they're probably the most vile of the colonizers because everything that they discover, they name everything that they discover after someone else. They name it after the first wealthy British person to understand it. So it's like all the shit around Darwinian understanding of evolution. Was it the Crick, Charles Crick, the DNA discovery folks? All this shit was discovered. Like you look at the ancient Babylonian text, you know that the snakes coiling the staff, that they use for barbershops, they use for old medicine. It looks like the double helix in DNA. Ancient civilizations understood this shit long before the British even existed. But they had like, and you look at all the people who discovered all that shit. They were all well-to-do folks, come from these families. They had time to just sit around. I called archaeology, anthropology. It's like colonizer sciences. Uh, Anthropology goes in, looks at the culture as it is now, and be like, oh, these people are primitive. They're stupid. We should overthrow them. Bring them civilization with our guns that we got from the Asians. Um, then they go in, overthrow, kill a bunch of people, bomb everything to shit. And they're like, oh my God, look at these ancient civilizations. That's what archaeology steps in. Your heritage, what is it? Indiana Jones. Like, oh my God, look at these ancient civilizations. These had to be white people. So we're going to steal this and bring it to our museums. And it's just like the British, they do not want those people to have their history. You look at what's going on in Israel right now. They want to take credit for civilizations that existed before white people. I will give it to you. The Arabs were not the first people to get to that land. In Egypt, Palestine, Israel, all of it used to be called Kemet. It was much like a larger block. Um, Sudan, all the people were extremely dark. They called it Kemet, land of the black soil. Palestine, uh, the Persians came around 13th dynasty. And the dynasties are older. Each one is much longer than American can even imagine. Right. White people came after that. First Caucasians were the Arabic folks. They did with Islam what white people did with Christianity, and yeah, and it's just like the all of that history has been so thoroughly distorted. A lot of people don't know up from down, confused as fuck. But I've been working with groups of people. We're gonna be putting together panels, help educate some people who are lost in the sauce because certain areas, like you got like a large chunk of the population, just especially younger generation, whew, don't know shit, and we got to figure out a way to just make it more accessible. Nobel Peace Prize. Mother Teresa wouldn't let non-Catholics be treated either. Yeah, she was garbage, and that Catholicism. You look at how they colonized. You have one area being bombed, and then one area they got missionaries building churches. And if you want to escape the bombing, you have to go to these churches. And people were just like, okay, sure, I accept this Lord and Savior, even though I had spirituality that existed that made more sense. And it's been around thousands and thousands of years longer than these Abrahamic religions. And yeah, but that's one way they decided if you were primitive or not is if you accepted the white man's Jesus Christ. You had to have that white Jesus. It had to be the King James version of the Bible, or when the Romans they had their own little version. But no one wants you to tap into that original source where it all actually came from. They burnt all that shit down, burnt down those ancient libraries, so you couldn't understand the actual history of where the Bible came from. They also gave the guy who created mustard gas the Nobel Prize. But to be fair, he also invented modern fertilizer. Yeah, fertilizer used for so many bombs. It's a key element to killing people as well. Uh, and let's never forget, fertilizer is responsible for all of our government because they're all full of shit. Um, and they should be run out of office. I'm not talking about voting them out of office. I'm talking about bringing them to justice, not waiting for them to lock themselves up, not waiting for them to be like, oh, I was on the Epstein list. What are you gonna do? I gotta go to jail. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna double down on the crazy shit. They're gonna go after more dictators in other countries because they want you to focus on other people as opposed to them. And we just really need to keep our eye on the prize. All of our enemies are domestic. If you're in America, the only way we can take an empire this size down is from the inside. Don't get distracted. Focus on the always brown people they want you to hate on. Uh, we got to get the generational wealth out of power. The people who just come from so much money they never thought that they would be held accountable because their grandpa's grandpa was the master and slaver. They come from that money where you just can't run out. Um, they have affluenza. That's like something they can go to court. They can be like, I got affluenza. I come from too much money. Like to send me to jail, it would be a crime against my senses because like, I've never experienced hardship in my life. I'm too affluent. That's an actual defense for some people. And if you can use that as a defense in this criminally unjust justice system, then we gotta create a real justice system that locks up billionaires. That's the only way your justice system is working when it's got billionaires in there. Those are the biggest criminals of all. Everything you say, it's facts, man. Well, I do what I can. That's why they shut me down. Like putting Muhammad in because they'll never let Kaepernick back. Uh, well, I mean, I don't keep. I'm assuming that's some sports reference. I don't watch anything to do with sports. Um, Last time I watched the season was probably 2014. The year Kaepernick got kicked out of the NFL. And even then, only games I watched were Raiders games, and when they showed highlights of Niners games, because I went to like some stuff like events with my dad. That's really it. The ties to the family was what connected me to. It's like I have a brother who could sit and watch repeats of the same game, watch the highlights of a bunch of games. Like, why do you care about all of this shit? And he's like just got this encyclopedic knowledge of men playing with balls, and like he'll shoo away the idea of a revolution. I'm like, and only the reason I think people should be coming together in large numbers is to figure out how we're gonna overthrow this government. That's what we need to do. Like, you play with your balls when you get home. I got no issue with men who play with balls. You can marry whoever you want. But if we're gonna be coming together in large numbers, we need to be like bringing some billionaires to justice. We need to do some perp walking, like just do like they're doing in Nepal, where they're just frog marching their politicians through the swamps and throwing shit out. That's when we can bring in a good pitcher You know, like someone who got some real smoke in their arm doing like 9100 miles an hour speedballs at them. That's when I care about the pictures. Just a band aid to not seem racist because they fired Kaepernick for no valid reason. Yeah, everything is just like they got like a story, and I remember when they cut Kaepernick, they were like, oh, he wasn't even a good quarterback. Like, weren't the Niners going to the Super Bowl? Weren't they like always in the playoffs when he was their quarterback? You know, uh, uh, they just like he just became the shittiest player, and it was always to the racist people, the people who were like burning their fucking uh, $100 jerseys after he took a knee. Like, and that's I one of the things that was just like particularly funny. When I say funny, not haha, but just like ironic and proves how stupid the Democrats are. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was like, she had a bunch of nasty shit to say about Colin Kaepernick for taking the knee. Like, like there's nothing wrong with this country. That America, we got rid of racism back in the '60s. There's like, if you think America, the justice system is racist, that's like, we haven't been racist even back in the '60s. It wasn't that bad. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Um, and then she went on to say all other racist shit, but it was like years ago. So it's like, okay, you could go have to look into it. I'm not going to try to paraphrase, but she did all this shit. Then she dies. And then you start seeing people with notorious RBG shit, like her, like she was some kind of a democratic savior. She's a horrible person. Um, just a disgusting individual, and that's like really all the Democrats. All they do, they got their Nancy Pelosi's, because when they had black people getting killed, she had the Kunta cloth, kente cloth, doing a kneel like that. Like that meant something. Just that's why it's just like I despise Trump. I despise everything um, that he's done since he's gotten into office. Um, at least he was saying he would do something different. Democrats, they were like, nah, we're going to pretty much we got the same agenda. Um, yeah. Like, we won't even pretend that we're going to change, like, end the wars. We're not even going to pretend to give a shit about any of that stuff. I just call it Republicrats. Like, and the one of the frustrating shits is, I'm like, I can't vote for a Democrat. People are like, oh, so that's a supporting Trump. Like, no, I don't support anybody involved with the system. It's the Republicrats to me. It's the same shit. They're funded by the same people. Um, and I have limited expectations, even if the people who I voted for got in office. Last person I voted for president was Jill Stein. Got to meet her in person. So she shows up to the community. You could talk to her. She could explain her position. But even if she got in the office, I have very little faith that one person could do everything that needs to be done. They got systems to coerce her into doing what the deep state wants. Um, so it's just like, yeah, I do want to bring like the politicians to justice, but more so the people who are pulling the strings, and that includes like people who aren't in elected office at all, like the billionaires. You could tell that they're rigging the system when they got $1 billion and they're still getting government subsidies. Like, these are the thieves. Look at anybody who's receiving $1 billion in subsidies. Your Elon Musk. Your right now Greenland. America's trying to acquire that shit because a bunch of people invested in AI, including Bill Gates, Palantir folks, who they just are just legitimately crazy, and they'll say that shit on camera. It's like all these AI companies that they want Greenland so they could like basically uh, 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 make that the ground zero for a lot of the shit they want to try out. And yeah, everybody who's profiting off of that shit, we got to lock them up. put them in a maximum security prison, and we got to do it because the alternative is the people with the guillotines get them, and they just start like offing them. And I'm not saying I'm completely against that if we arrive at it like through a democratic process. I mean, I'm all about democracy. I just know, like I said, we won't have actual justice until these billionaires are facing it. I had no idea Sir Isaac Newton did a bunch of shit at 26, and that dude still ate mercury. Yeah, okay. Here is the thing the issue I have with a lot of these European scientists. Okay, because I had a physics class, and we had a book. It was like this thick. I'm like, damn, is that all formulas? We just gonna be learning like these complex formulas that are like this thick, this level of thickness in the formula, and then you get into reading the actual book, and a lot of it is just getting into the history of the people who discovered the formulas. So they had one cat. He was a Roman scientist, worked at the Library of Antiquities, or they call it Library of Alexandria, in Africa. Uh, um, the one that they burned down, Constantine. They didn't mention this in the book, but he was like this scientist. They called him Beta because he was the second best at everything. Who worked at this library that had all of this ancient knowledge. He was able to discover the circumference of the Earth and all of these complex mathematical equations, to explain the world around them and the distance between the stars and the planets and all that shit. They're like, how was he able to figure this out? They didn't have the technology to do this stuff. And they were like going into like what must have been his thought process to figure it out. I'm like, y'all, he worked at the Library of Antiquities, these ancient civilizations. They contributed to this African. They did the same shit to, when the Romans burnt down the Library of Antiquities, started kicking out the native Africans, and Egypt became Egypt. Kemet became, because it was Kemet. You had the Arabs discover it. It was Hyksos, and then Egypt when the white people discovered it. But they started kicking out the natives. Those people like the black ones who they were persecuted by the Arabs before. They went to Timbuktu, the Mali Empire. They created that. Timbuktu had the library after they burnt it down in Egypt. But they had all of these equations, and those they're now known as the Dogon tribe. But when the Europe went into its dark ages again after burning all this ancient information, the Middle Age Europeans they became to know the people as Moors. But it was the same people that they call ancient Egyptians, and there's no such thing as an ancient Egyptian because Egypt became Egypt when white people discovered it. And I would argue that's not the ancient. White people have not been a part of an ancient civilization. We start talking about ancient civilizations, that's before white people emerged from the caves. But it was, it's just, the Europeans, they just come across this knowledge that they burnt down, and then one of them understands it, and they're like, okay, we're gonna name that. It's a Newton. It's a we're gonna name it after some European scientists. At least the Germans, like they gave credit to a lot of the Arabic scholars that they learned from, and this is why I say the British, they're the most vile because they take credit for everything. And you see it in our patent system. They had lights on the pyramids, but we give the patent to the light to vile racists like Edison, right? Um, Musk, he named his car after Nikola Tesla. Tesla, he got his idea for this wireless energy that was going to be free for everybody. He got it from the Ankh and Jed. The Ankh is the symbol. This is where the cross was plagiarized from, and it's just like, yeah, like I said, the British vile history thieves. You know, they go into, they want you to think like that the land of Israel was guaranteed to a bunch of white people thousands of years ago. When that land, the original inhabitants were there, white people didn't even exist when they first were there. Like white people showed up much later to the game. You could say, well, maybe some of the ancient Kemet people, like they went to the Caucasus Mountains and they got lost there during the last ice age, lost their melanin. Maybe you could say that happened tens of thousands of years ago, but it's like none of them like will even acknowledge uh, that the Mendel's law, which is that the dominant can hold the recessive cannot hold the dominant. Meaning, dark features are all the dominant features, right? A lot of people they want to like basically parrot what Hitler was saying. Hitler used to say that all these ancient civilizations, but they used to be nothing but white people. Colored people came much later, when it was the exact opposite. And scientifically, all of these European scientists were able to prove it through years and years. But if they would have just learned the native language of like the people they were colonizing, they could have explained it to them from the jump. Instead of burning down the libraries, they would have just like, let me try to understand your library. Let me understand what you're trying to say. They could have had a better understanding of uh, um, the human history that they denied. You know, when they were denying us being human, they were putting colored people in zoos as late as the 20th century. Was this pre or post Assyrian Empire? Uh, well, we're talking about the. I don't know what you were referencing specifically, but this is another thing. Reason why we were obsessed with Syria, because Syria has a history before. Now it's mostly viewed as European because it's lighter skinned people. It's not the history. Like I said, it existed way before the Brits, way before a lot of these colonial states. Um, and that's and any country that has a history older than the colonial states, they do their best to occupy it, burn it down, burn it, raise it to the ground, and then like just like look at these people were primitive, and that goes on to this day. Like with the Palestine, they burned down all of the ancient temples, the ancient churches. They destroy everything that existed before white people. You go to like Korea, they had farms that were 5,000 to 6,000 years old. Burn that shit down. We can't show that they were feeding themselves before white people came from the caves. It is, and they had like a wall greater than the Great Wall in China. They had it in Niger or Nigeria. Burnt that shit down. The British did, and then it's just like, look at these people. And then they show you a few decades later, people like drinking water from mud puddles. Like motherfucker, these were the people who taught you how to bathe yourself. Like when you were in your dark ages, throwing piss out of the window, getting typhoid fever and all kinds of sicknesses that were easily avoidable. They came and showed you how to have plumbing, how to have aquifers, and all this shit. And then like you get Chinese technology and bomb these people who helped you. That's like that doesn't mean you're a better person. You're more civilized. That means you're ungrateful. That means you're psychopathic. That means you bite the hand that feeds you, literally. And we start talking about Turtle Island, like the natives, they came over here, natives showed them how to live off the land and then commit genocide, still they shit. I just want to get back to a point of stability so I can enjoy my Nate's Vlogs movie reviews. Well, you can go to nateflix.net. You can find the OG rewinds. You can find the new ones, new employee evaluations, old ones. Cut West 707. Yo, yo, what it do? Anyway, I'm a skedaddle. I got a choring to do. Choring to do. See you around. It's good to see you. It's good to see the people. It's been a while. The book called Wanderings by Chaim Potok, History of the Jews, wrote in 1978. It goes back to Egypt times. Haven't finished it. Well, yeah, and this is the, I haven't read it, don't know it, but I do know the history of, the Abrahamic religions. Abraham, he ended up in Kemet, or what people now call Egypt or Palestine, Jordan, Sudan, Israel, uh, and the Abrahamic Jews, the sons of, I think Isaac is like one of the sons of Abraham, like the OG Jews, Jewish people, the ones who had the bloodline claim. They're not Ashkenazi. That's Ashkenazis. Um, that is just like white people stealing the identity of the original Jews, original Hebrew people. And it used to be like there was fractions of the sons of Abraham, the descendants of Abraham, who believe that they should inherit right to rule, like that, and that we had the fall of Kemet, when Darius the Great, like he was working with fractions of the descendants of Abraham, um, who thought it was their right to rule, and then that's when you had fractions that went to um, Alexander. They were like, okay, you're bringing in outside force, so they brought in outsiders, and both of the outsiders, like, they did not give a fuck about the ancient secrets. They did not give a fuck about the history. They saw the riches. They wanted to steal and loot and plunder, and that's what ended up happening. Like I said, that's why the original inhabitants of the land, they moved on. They created the Mali Empire, because their whole thing was like, we don't need this shit. They had Mansa Musa is the richest man in the history of the world. He had like so much gold. He went on a pilgrimage to Egypt, made the value of gold dip because he was just giving it out everywhere. And then they had the new library in Timbuktu, where it's just like basically paying for people's education, giving them gold, incentivizing them to go check out this new library. And that's where when we start talking about like a lot of these ancient European philosophers, they got their wisdom from going to Timbuktu. That's where the term "from here to Timbuktu" came from. It's like, yeah, I'll go to Timbuktu to learn some shit, to be anointed. And then let's not forget, like, they funded the Renaissance, the Italian Renaissance. Renaissance is throughout all Europe, but a lot of the stuff like the ancient European or the old European art that is just so world renowned and known, it was funded by Moors, or who were now the Europeans, they would call them ancient Egyptians, but they're really ancient Kemetic folks. Before the Arabs got to the area, before the white people got there. History of the people is what the book's about. It's not a religious text. King Korah. Anyone can become a prophet through proper devotion. well, yeah, I mean, yeah, dedication to the actual word. You know, it's like one of the beautiful things about having a position in with the YouTube. Fuck YouTube now, but I'm talking about the position of like being an alternative to television is like it forced me to step my game up, like learning shit. Like it's a lot of videos like before I could even think about posting, I had to do my research, you know. So I had to like inform myself on a number of topics, uh, um, just so I could step correct. Before just popping off on the camera. Um, so it's like yeah, it was like a way to enlightenment, and that's also the reason why I ended up getting shut down because I truly believe in the craft. I believe in the power of sharing the word, the actual word. Um, but yeah, and a lot of people, it's just they get like the you look at the main page of YouTube, they shut me down for a reason because they want that garbage to be favored by the algorithm. Used to be the algorithm favored people who were able to maintain a level of engagement, right? When the algorithm favored that, I used to have my network kissing my ass, and that's what the networks were originally there to do, because it was like a ridiculous high percentage of my subscribers were only subscribed to me, right? And before, like they would roll you into a next video they wanted you to watch, you had to go and click the video you want to watch. So people watch my shit, and like they'll finish at least 80% of it, and then most of them would just go and click another one of my videos, you know. Uh, and when YouTube was like that, they were like they created the network because they wanted to bring people like me into these little uh, these studios, basically TV studios. I mean, yeah, exactly TV studios. They were funded by the same TV networks that people were going to the internet to get away from. And then they would have like sit me down in front of a panel of these executives, and like, we love you, we love everything about you. I just changed these 50 things that make you who you are, so we can make you more money. And yeah, that's what the whole network was there for to do. It was just uh, it was there to co-opt people, and there was a level of ball playing on my end. I did like some stuff that I was like, sure, extra money. A lot of the stuff like it didn't even have to be on my channel. So I'm like, sure, I get to work with some interesting people. This is how I ended up in that video with Diddy's son. Like that's the quality of people. I mean, they had me, I work with more than just that. But yeah, I was like receptive to some of the stuff. And then, I just really just caught on to like what they were doing. A lot of the shit, it was just so anti-black. Someone sent me a message on one of the things. He was like, "Yeah, after they got rid of you, it was like they just started putting all this anti-black stuff, anti-black." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was like a big part of it." Like before I even got canceled, before they even shut down my largest channel, back in 2012, I was starting to make changes, and that's when I started first experiencing shadow banning. It was I made the video about the chick I mentioned it like a bunch of times, but I made a video about someone, and then someone went and they were like, "You fat nigger bitch," Nate sent me and all this shit, and I was like, "That is not the vibe I was trying to send." I don't want people being thirsty trying to get this attention, and I'm definitely not trying to have you going. That's not it's not the energy I'm bringing. I'm just like, quit being thirsty, getting attention for the silly shit. Develop a personality. Um, but I never wanted anyone to be that mad at someone who was just a lost kid. And then like once I was able to recognize the power, I just, that's when I started ending every video with "Don't forget to be good to each other." And I started doing rewinds, uh, just just looking at a lot of the media that brainwashes us. It makes us think, this divisive shit. And yeah, and then once I started unwinding all that shit, I became like a real problem. And that was like, yeah, there's just the lead up to when I got shut down, because the reason why the videos the problem videos of me getting harassed by the police, the reason why those blew up wasn't through YouTube, because YouTube had already started the shadow ban. But it got picked up by websites outside of YouTube, and yeah, once those started to catch on, like I said, most of my subscribers, they were only subscribed to me, and then yeah, so it's just like I started picking up more people from outside websites. I became more dangerous because people were just, like I had these new people. They were going to check out my old videos. It was like my money was going up, or my views were going up, money was going down, because I was like having my monetization being cut. It was so much to get into. And then like I was like watching. It's a cat, Scott Ritter, and he had his money cut. Like he couldn't access his bank account. That shit happened to me about a decade ago. Uh, I was getting ready. I had a little chunk of change. I was getting ready to leave the country back in 2017. Then I had like almost $20,000 taken from my account by the government, and all of my plans to do all the travel, it was just shot. Um, then I was offered a job like outside of the country, but like 2019, and I was getting ready to go around 2020, and I needed to get my passport. And then I couldn't do that, COVID. I couldn't even renew my fucking driver's license. Couldn't do anything. It was like everything was shut down. And then by the time I was able to finally get my passport, the opportunity had gone. But yeah, hold on. King Cora minimized who he thought he was. Abraham had a problem with that. Yeah, I said a lot. I don't know what we're talking about specifically. Netflix best reviewer, streamboo.com. No, I don't know what that is. Is that like a place for me to post my shit? It's hard to get enthusiastic for any website. Like to be just 100. I remember after YouTube shut my first shit down, I tried multiple different websites, and yeah, a lot of disappointment. In some places, like the whole specialty was like, we celebrate free speech. But I guess Rumble, they haven't taken any of my stuff down. Same with Odyssey, odyssee.com/@Netflix. But Netflix.net, you go there. That's just keep that one in the chamber. I'm gonna be hopping off to go edit a new employee evaluation to upload, as well as new rewinds and whatnot. So yeah, I'm gonna get to that. But I want to thank you guys for showing up before. Korah is in the Bible. I done forgot what was said. Korah, that sounds like a Avatar Airbender character. I don't watch the show. I just assume like, but thank you for showing up. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna uh, uh, post another live, or like I said, got new rewind, new employee evaluation, the edited stuff. That's gonna be on Netflix.net. Go there, check it out if you haven't already. And then I'll do another live it's a lot of shit I didn't tap into. I mean, I kind of talked about Iran and all that shit, but there's so much shit unfold. This, uh, man, it's hard to keep up with. But um, Cora and Cora aren't the same. So I was kind of right. That is a character from a show. Like I said, don't forget to be good to each other. Peace.